everyone. Welcome back to NCSY Pulse, powered by NCSY Alumni. My name is John Ackerman, and I'm sitting here with Rabbi, with Aaron Hekmati, old friend of mine. Not that you're old, but I am old, so therefore you're an old friend of mine. Somebody I've known for a long time from NCSY, somebody who I have a great deal of respect for. We had a lot of NCSY adventures years ago, and now Aaron Hekmati is a full-time NCSY staff member doing incredible things in the NCSY and JSU world. And we are sitting here at StaffCon 2024, reconnecting. Aaron, welcome to the show. It is so good to see you.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I mean, it's great to have friends. It's great to have somebody like you, that we spent a lot of time together years ago.
Sure.
And you are now in the position that, the John Zars of the world were in years ago. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing now.
Thank you for that. So currently right now, I am a JSU director, JSU coordinator for both Manhattan and Long Island. Last year I was in Manhattan. We did about like 8 or 9 clubs all around Manhattan, like Bronx Science, Stuyvesant, under the schools, HSMSE, High School of Math and Science.
These are real schools. You're just like rattling them off, but these are not like just like standard high schools. These are tough. Bronx Science, Stuyvesant, these are tough places.
Yeah. It's like schools that you kind of have to get into, even though they're public schools.
Right. Very challenging. Good for you, though.
Thank you. So doing that now.
So you did it. So you were mostly in Manhattan last year.
Yeah.
And now are you more focused on Long Island, or you're also doing?
So currently I'm more focused on Long Island, like places like Roslyn, Wheatley, Garden City, like those areas. Try to get to those schools more. But I also have an eye on for Manhattan. We have advisors and an assistant director under me who's kind of like managing everything. So I'm just overseeing everything.
That's amazing. It's so fun to see the growth, and that here you are after going through the system, and you're now running the system.
Part of it.
So let's go back. Tell us how you got involved. Go back to the beginning. How did you get started on your NCSY adventure?
My first NCSY involvement goes back to when I was about, I think, 10th going to 11th grade. I had a cousin who was in, he did a summer program the summer that there was a big war. I don't know if you remember, like 2015, and they canceled LTEJ, so they had a West Coast trip.
Yes.
So I didn't go on it because I was like, my parents were like not so sure about it. My cousin went, and after that, he came back. He's like, "Wow, like we're on this NCSY trip."
Wait, was this your cousin Gabe Durrani?
Yeah, Gabe Durrani.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Shout out to Gabe.
No. Why not? Gabe, shouts to Gabe,
Gabe. So he went on this trip, and we were all like, wow, like how do we get involved? And my dad found out it was from NCSY, so I believe he called you. He said I got in touch with you, and he's like, listen, I have like 40 kids who want to come to 40 Persian boys and girls who want to come to Israel next summer. Like, and you're like, wow. And I remember I met you actually. It was my first meeting ever. It was somewhere, I think in Old Westbury or something. You rented out something and you did a huge thing with like a bunch of parents.
Yes.
And we did our first TJ trip, and you were very involved. And so my dad honestly is the reason why I'm involved in NCSY today.
Wow. I remember, now it's funny because now that you're saying this, it's all kind of coming back to me. And I remember that was like my first real major interaction with the Great Neck Persian community. And then I got very involved there, and I was at Abat Shalom all the time. That's where I met Rebecca Yaminian and Chanel Barron and all those families, Sandy Sholian. And I remember the parents always thought I was Persian. And when I told them, like, no, my last name's Ackerman and not Persian, I'm a wannabe Persian, 100%. And they're like, oh, we give you a name, give you a good Persian name. We call you Jonathan Akramanian. And I was like, wow, now I'm really part of the family. It's great. Wow, I remember those days. And okay, so I remember Gabe went on, it was called TJJ West. And I remember that.
And then I went to TJJ that following year. Yeah, Dean Adler, Arya Corman, like, I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
DL Lavin?
Yeah, she was on the bus, but she was definitely like, involved. Yeah, right. Simon Taylor. It was always Simon Taylor as well.
Right. Taylor. Right. Very good. Okay, so your cousin goes on TJJ West. You come in, you go on TJJ.
Yeah.
And what was it about TJJ that sort of sparked everything for you?
TJJ was like my first real experience where I was with people outside of Great Neck who were Jewish, and they had all different identities in Judaism, where I never really got to see that. I grew up in like my own bubble of Judaism, where I knew what everyone else was. Like, I've never really seen Ashkenazim before. It really never has happened before I got to TJ. And when I got to TJ, it was such a great mix of people where I got to see the beauty of like every type of single person. And religious or not religious, from what I've seen, it was all just like a great type of community just in one bus for the summer. And it really attracted to me.
So when you first experienced Ashkenazim.
Yeah.
Was it like a little disappointing? Like, oh, they're so quiet and they're so. Have you ever seen this Modi clip about the differences between Ashkenazim and Sephardim?
When they go to I actually love Ashkenazim. I happen to be. I really got to like. I think Ashkenazim have a lot like of an emotional side, which I think is very comforting. That sometimes like Sephardi parents, they're also internally very emotional, but like Ashkenazim have this type of like emotional aspect of them that's kind of comforting for me to see that I never really saw before, and I thought it was really great. I got involved.
But most importantly, Ashki food, yeah or nay?
Personally, I love Ashki food.
Wow.
I married a Sephardi girl, and I've even told her like I really like it when they make peach cobbler, which is like a dessert food, but they make it for dinner. I'm personally into it, and Coco, I tell her all the time. She's like why? But we're into it.
Okay. It's good. It's good that you're accepting of other people's culture. That's important. What about gefilte fish? Are you on the pro side of gefilte fish? Or
I'm personally pro.
Really?
I'm actually very pro. Not jar gefilte fish.
No.
That draws the line for me. But I think gefilte fish itself is like unreal. My dad also loves.
Really?
We buy chopped liver every Shabbos.
You are the first, I believe, of the Persian Sfartis that we've interviewed for this podcast. Probably the last. Who are like, yeah, I'll be gefilte fish. Everybody else is just like, no, absolutely not. But I agree with you. The jar with like the floating brains. As they say in Skver, that is no bueno. No. Okay, so well, maybe not. So you went on TJJ. You were exposed to this whole new culture of both, like you said, Jews from other backgrounds, but also NCSY culture.
Yeah.
So then what? Because clearly, the end result is you now work at NCSY.
Yeah.
So, but post TJJ, what was sort of the next step in your journey that came after that summer?
Post TJJ, I got really, really involved actually. I got on the regional board at the time. We had one for New York. So I was on the regional board for New York, and then went to Shabbatons. I was a spring regional, went to regional. The following summer I went to TJAP with Mark Fine. I got really involved.
Mark's the best.
Yeah, shout out to Mark. Mark's incredible. So I got really, TJAP was really like for me, I think the turning point. Whereas like I was just doing NCSY on the side, like on the side of my life, rather than like really involved in my life. And when I got to TJAP, really like wow, I wanted to make this really a part of what I'm doing. Especially every month. So TJAP was a really big turning point for me.
So you go on AP, spend an amazing summer with Mark Fine.
Yeah.
I'm sure other good staff also, but Mark. And you come back, and that was the summer going into senior year now?
That was when going to senior year.
Okay, so senior year, obviously, you have some big decisions looming, and it's a common decision of, are we looking at going straight to campus, going straight to college, or is there an Israel gap year? So tell us a little bit about your decision-making process and what kind of path that led you down.
From TJAP, from the start, from before, I met many people who were who took a gap year, going to Israel right after high school, and I always said to myself, I actually spent a free weekend in TJP by the Kotel with John Zar. Everyone was doing X, Y, and Z for the free weekend. Things not as good as others, and he's like, you come to the Kotel with me. Like, we'll spend the Shabbat by Nittiv Aryeh. We'll have a good time. Me being 11th grade, being like, no way in heck. But I had such a great time that Shabbat. I met such great Rebbeim, and I saw the type of people that came out of the yeshiva and like how they represent themselves, and I'm like, I kind of want to be like that. So already from that summer, I already wanted to go to yeshiva the year after, but it came this whole process of like, how am I gonna do it? How is it gonna affect my life? Like, is it gonna ruin my chances going to college, being successful in whatever job I want to go into, or not? And I had these like dilemmas in my head, and for many different people also. But thank God, after a long time of going back and forth, it ended up working out, and I ended up going to yeshiva.
Where'd you go in Israel?
To Derech Or Sameach.
That's obviously a fantastic place, big friend of NCSY. A lot of NCSY alumni spent a year at Derech Or Sameach.
Yeah.
Tell us about the year a little bit. I mean, I think it's always funny when somebody goes to Israel for the year and then they come back and it's like, oh, how was your year? Tell us everything. It's like, it was a year of my life. I can't just real quick tell you about a year, but give us some highlights. What was it like as a public school student making that sort of transition into being in a yeshiva in Israel?
Right. So, especially as a public school student, I grew up like traditional, Friday night dinners, we go to shul on Shabbat, all these different types of things. But I never was in like a sit down learning environment ever in my life. So when I got there, it was a little bit of a culture shock, but I knew I wanted to be there. So I'm saying, like, the second I got there, I was keeping Shabbat, like, the exact second. I was like, there's nothing's gonna stop me in my life from ever, bringing Shabbat. And I was also like, I'm in a path to growth in this moment. So it was a year of like really figuring out myself, like what I want for myself. It didn't establish everything of my entire life, it did not. But it gave me the pathway of like where I was going. And that was, obviously that one year turned to the second year actually. But it really, it was a door opening moment for me, for just connect with Rebbeim, just kind of things I never really had before.
It sounds like, it's a little bit cliche almost, but we all know that not everybody embraces the opportunity like it seems like you embrace. Not everybody takes full advantage of their time in Israel, and it sounds like you really from day one grabbed onto it. Would you say that was something that has to do with like your NCSY experience, or do you think that was more of just like your own motivation?
It absolutely has to do with my NCSY experience. I'll tell you why, actually. Growing up, I met a lot of advisors, and I know they were involved in yeshiva or seminary, and they came out to be like this. And when I saw that, I understood that's how they became the way they are. Me going to yeshiva that year, I knew if I want to become a person like that, who's gonna hold the house like that, and hold himself like that, I have to take things seriously and I have to be, just be involved. Please just be involved. I wasn't the most perfect kid. I'm not saying when it like
you.
No. Especially in that. No, especially like that year, I wasn't the most doing everything by the book, but I definitely found my way after time.
Okay. So you said 2 years in Israel?
I did 2 years in Israel.
Okay. So you came back. You went to Queens College.
Yeah.
When did you realize that your NCSY experience was not just a high school experience and not just something fun to do while you're in college, but maybe there's an element, the beginning of a career? Because obviously you work full-time in NCSY, you're doing a ton in the NCSY world.
Yeah.
What was it that sort of said to you, maybe there's more, maybe I can be doing more?
Honestly, a great question. Honestly, it was always something I wanted to do because I had great influences like John Czar or Dean Adler, Mark Fein, who were working in this company. And they told me that they're working in a very like meaningful, healthy environment where I've worked different jobs after yeshiva when I was in college. I worked jobs in real estate. I worked jobs doing numerous of things, and I wasn't always in a great environment. I was in an office where people weren't speaking properly. They were kind of cheating each other out in business. And I knew that when I was in those offices, I didn't want to be in there. I didn't want to be that type of person. And thank God, after time, I was lucky enough to find a position in NCSY. But the second I got in, I didn't take it for granted. It was actually a really, really crazy moment how I actually got into NCSY. If I'm gonna have like a minute to say it,
sure.
I actually lost my job working in real estate for a really big company. I lost my job 2 weeks before my wedding. And it was really like, we were really nervous, me and my wife, like wow, like how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna afford life? It's not. Sure. It was a little bit scary. Like, my wife just got out of college at the time, my fiance, and we're like, what are we gonna do? I'm like, and she goes to me, she's like, Aaron, like, don't worry, Anna Muvado, it's gonna be okay. Like, take some time, it's gonna work out. So whatever, like, I was peace of mind. I was really emotional at the time, but on the day of my wedding, I was dancing and we were hyped. It was really, really incredible. And on the day of my wedding, when I'm dancing, Manu Haas comes up to me in the middle of my dancing, and he goes to me, he goes, hey Aaron, I have this amazing job for you. I'm in the middle of dancing, like Manhattan. So I'm like, dude, like I'm at my wedding right now. I'm dancing. Like, call me tomorrow morning. You know what I'm saying? Like, not the time. He's like, no, I have this great idea. I'm like, no, call me tomorrow morning. Literally. So he calls me the next morning, and he said, yeah, I have this really great opportunity for you, and I really want you to get involved. And one thing to another, right, Black, SAFCON last year, and that's how I got involved.
Wow. So you bring up Manu. Manu's great, big friend of the show,
sure.
Good friend of mine. Deanie's a good friend of mine. It's funny because so many people have mentioned Manu as like a huge influence in their life. I know Manu listens to the show, so I'm just going to say, Manu, next time, wait 5 minutes. Wait until after the dance. But obviously, great results. Okay, really important question. We hear a lot of people who meet tremendous NCSY staff people and say that each one had a huge impact on their life. You mentioned John Czar, and John's a very good friend of mine. But I think we need to settle right now, who's the better John? John Czar or John? Right now on the show, who's the better John?
How many people view the show?
Listen, we've had at least 7 or 8 people listen to the show. No, I'm just kidding. John is one of my best friends, and I love him dearly. We used to joke because I was John A, he was John Z. We would say we're the Johns from A to Z. That was like our thing that we have between us, and was not as funny. I think as we thought.
Both Johns had a big impact on my life.
I mean, listen, it's
Good
a known thing that people with the name John, John Green, right, is also. If you look at Great Neck over the past 10 years, and you look at the role of NCSY, the lunch and learns, the latte and learns, the partnerships, I don't know if there's a community. I don't know if there's a community anywhere in New York or outside New York that's been as influenced in the NCSY world by one person who had a vision, a dream like John Czar. Would love to hear just, tell us about your relationship with John. Tell us about, what he did that you feel like he was a big influence on you.
Sure. As you were saying, by the way, John really did change, Great Neck as a whole. It really would not be anything that is right now without John Czar. Just in general, the whole community itself, not just NCSY, but the community itself, it grew a lot in the past 10 years, especially to extents that we never imagined. And NCSY was a huge deal with that, and especially me growing up. He was the influence for me. Meaning, I had an older brother, Baruch Hashem, and he was a great influence on me. And I had great parents, and they're always there for me. But I also had a guy like John Czar in my life who always showed me from left to right, like how to be doing things. And John was also that guy for everyone. John, all the kids in North Shore, all the kids in North High School, they felt like John was like that older brother that they can all really rely on when things went south at all in any situation in life. They would call John, say, "Hey, oh, John, I'm going through this thing," or "John, God knows what." But he was always really there, and he had such a great hashpah on me, and he really, is a big reason why the person I am today is definitely through John Czar.
He's tremendous, and I've been around the New York region for a very long time, and I remember the days when Great Neck, as a chapter at NCSY, had 10 people involved, 12 people involved, and now Great Neck is measured by the hundreds, and it really, now there's so many people involved, and there's teams of people involved in Great Neck and NCSY, but he was really the pioneer.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So now you're working at NCSY, and you've sort of come full circle. But every year there's tons of kids who are mini versions of Aaron Hekmati who haven't gone through the system yet. They're showing up for the first time. What would you tell them now that you know what you know? You've been through the system, and now you run the system. What would you tell them? Some freshmen or some sophomores coming in, Great Neck North, Great Neck South, somewhere, and they're just getting started. What message would you want to tell them in the beginning of their NCSY adventure?
Probably say take advantage. Time's really short, and like high school in general is really short. Everything you do, it goes by like this. And if you don't realize that at such a younger age that you have this gold opportunities to be involved, whether that's an NCSY Shabbaton or a latte and learn or a lunch and learn or whatever it is, just always try to get involved. And if you're not getting involved, then you're getting farther from where you could have been. And I think a regret I had was I didn't really know, not a regret, I'm saying it just didn't come to my life. That 9th and 10th grade, I didn't really have NCSY. I only had 11th and 12th grade, and I really took it more seriously 12th grade. But who knows the person I could have been, if I was involved in 9th and 10th grade. Seriously, I don't know where I'd be right now. But to the kid who's listening right now and wondering, do I get involved in this, get involved, it's something that really was an eye-opener for me, and hopefully it'll be an eye-opener for you.
You're running NCSY programming, you've already now been doing it for 2 years. Has there been an experience that stands out to you, maybe something meaningful, or maybe you met somebody that not as an NCSY, but now that you're a staff person, has there been a meaningful experience that stands out to you?
Actually, there is, and I'll tell you. I was an advisor on Israel ID with, I don't know if you know Rabbi Yoni Pollock.
Sure, his parents actually lived down the block.
Did they really?
Yes.
My son said, he's probably your neighbor. Yeah, why didn't I think he was your neighbor? So Rabbi Yoni Pollock was running Israel ID. I ended up signing up for it. I was the advisor for it. It's my first real involvement in NCSY, being not a camper. So when I got there, I was the loud one. I was the one trying to be. Everyone has their own roles, but I was the one really trying to be the loud, get everyone involved type of person. There was one kid who was a really special kid, but when I saw him at the airport, he was really quiet, really to himself, big, Sephardi looking guy, you know what I'm saying? And he was like the only one who was Sephardi on the trip, and I really like related to him. The second I saw him, like, okay, this seems like kind of like a similar me growing up, and like, let's see how I go there. And I tried to speak to him, and he was really tough to speak to. But eventually he opened up, and he, over that summer, became an absolute rock star, and he really, really was like, you know, asking me questions, me being a person like, what, you're asking me questions? Like, I don't know anything. And he was asking me big questions, and then he was asking where to go to yeshiva, and one way or not, after like really being in contact with me for really years and years, he ended up going to the same exact yeshiva as me. He ended up having the same Rebbe as me, and he went Shana Gimel, which is like crazy for a kid. And I don't want to say it was like, oh, it's all because of me because I did this. No, but it was really because he was a kid who cared, and like I was really someone who would try my best to care for him. And I think I really got that influence. The reason why it's full circle because I had people like that in my life who I really cared, and they really cared for me. They really wanted to give me that extra mile, and like the fact that I try to give this kid an extra mile, you saw the labor of your fruits just right there and then. And the same thing about everyone's doing this whole company. They're spending their lives going the extra mile for that one kid who they would not have gone to where they are, and they would not be the person they would be if it wasn't for you to take that push.
It's awesome to see it full circle, and for me, it's great to see you and great to be colleagues now, co-workers is really exciting. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us at StaffCon.
Thank you for having me.
This has been NCSY Pulse, powered by NCSY Alumni. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at NCSY Alumni. We will talk to you soon.